Another podcast, another interesting guest. Today we have Mr. Lloyd Owers, who's quite famous, quite popular in the coaching fraternity, a coach and a coach educator with a UEFA B license, FA Youth Award, and 16 years of coaching experience. So Lloyd currently is the technical director of the Marshall Islands, a Pacific island nation. Achievements include 8 players involved with the first team, 3 to pro clubs, one representing the England under 18 schoolboys, and also academically, he holds an MSc in performance coaching. So, Lloyd, you have done quite a lot in your football journey. So, why don't we hear more from you about your life and journey so far?
Yeah, no problem. Firstly, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. So, yeah, you've covered quite a lot of it actually. You've given a good overview of myself, but yeah, I've worked across a variation of levels and different backgrounds, different settings, different countries. I was fortunate enough to my first experience of going abroad was to Canada in 2012 as a sort of early 20s coach, and that was what shaped a lot of sort of personal traits, but also professional traits in terms of coaching styles. And then I started to realize there are different cultures to coaching as well as into life. So that was what was my first real experience. And I think we can obviously come to that a little bit later on. But yeah, no, thank you for having me on.
Great. And I'm also going to be using one word for at least half of the podcast, Marshall Islands, 2 words, Marshall Islands. So now that is something that's, it's perhaps what you're most famous for right now in the coaching fraternity. So the role with
Yeah.
Marshall Islands, I mean, the federation itself was founded in 31st December 2020, not too long ago. And you joined later as the nation's first ever technical director, a record you're going to have for life. So
Yeah.
was it like to, create a football culture and structure for a nation with virtually, I would say, no football history so far until then?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. It was very interesting. So the initial conversations came about just as randomly as the project itself, and just through connections from my blog site and connections from my network, started to open up opportunities to speak to people in the region. And one of them was the president of the Soccer Federation for the Marshall Islands, and it was quite quickly apparent that they needed help and they wanted help. And once I realised that there wasn't really any activity, it was an opportunity for me to one help grow the game in a country that doesn't have football, which is crazy when you think of it, but also to be part of that worldwide stage was a massive opportunity. I didn't expect it to be as popular as it was, but yeah, that obviously came with it, which was fantastic. But yeah, there's an initial culture interest at least because it's very US cultured. Um, Basketball is very popular in the Marshall Islands because of the connection to the US. And then because the game is growing in the US, it was then starting to grow in the or wanting to grow in the and that's where we came in. So I quickly got a couple of guys involved as well. We had Matt Webb looking after like the commercial side, Justin Wally looking after the press and communications. And then collectively, we started to grow the game, create an awareness to the Marshall Islands project, to the country itself, and hopefully then start to grow out the sport, which we've managed to achieve.
Yes, there's definitely been more focus now, at least in the football coaching fraternity. So, but can you tell us, for players, what's the availability of clubs like, training pitches, tournaments, matches? What kind of avenues do footballers in Marshall Islands have available right now?
Um, so initially, because there was zero really happening, it was a case of we were starting everything from scratch. So I wrote a school curriculum and based it on my own ideas, my own philosophy, but also connected it to like a culture of being together, community based for the Marshall Islands. And that was then it started to form a basis of a long term plan. So then I wrote a coaching philosophy or a playing philosophy of what we wanted to do from kids all the way through to national teams. And then it was a case of them filling in the gaps. So we put in place together um, things such as youth structures and what sessions would look like. And then when I went over in the summer in 2023, we ran sessions for kids, adults, and coaching education workshops. But what's happened from that is we now have 2 weekly sessions for children We have 2 weekly sessions for adults. We have a coach education course. So part of my role here in the UK was around content creation and for course creation. So I created a course which was like the Marshall Islands Introduction to Soccer or Coaching Soccer. And so I delivered some practical elements when I was in there. The rest of it is online e-learning content, which we've got, I think 8 have completed that with online and with me. And then Justin's actually in the Marshall Islands now, and he's completed more. So we now have 16 coaches on our database. We have an average of around 25 to 28 players per week for kids, and same number for male adults as well. And in terms of competition, it was very new. We needed to create teams. So we had a futsal league, which was just a couple of rounds just to get like an idea of who wanted to play and be a part of that. But last weekend, actually, so this is good timing because last weekend was the nation's first actual official tournament. So for adults, we held the Ratak Cup. So Ratak is sunshine basically in Marshallese. So the Ratak Cup, or Sunrise, I should say. And so we held that last Saturday for adults. We had the winning team, and the player of the tournament, the top goal scorer. I can't reveal anything yet because that's going to be promoted all over social media next week. And then this coming Saturday, we have the children's version of it as well. So we have 3 age groups, and that's going to be the children's version of the Ratak Cup as well. So the nation's first. And then over time, what we want to do is have that as an annual tournament every January. And then we'll have one in the summer every month, every year as well.
Right. So you're taking baby steps, which I think makes sense because you're really trying to revolutionize the country in terms of football. Now,
Yeah.
what's interesting is that you have or will eventually have a direct influence on the national team. So have you had any luck in identifying players of Marshallese descent who are probably playing overseas who might help boost the national team?
We have, yeah. So initially, it came about because we had a few people from the US connect with us just to say there are big Marshallese communities in the USA.
Yeah.
And then we discovered quite quickly that in Arkansas, specifically in a town called Springdale, there are almost more Marshallese in that state than there are in the Marshall Islands itself, which is unbelievable.
Right.
And what that then started to do is open out connections for people to come to us and say, look, I'm Marshall, I've got quite Marshallese parents, or I've got Marshallese grandparents. Some were saying I was born in the Marshall Islands, but we moved to the US when I was young.
Yeah.
So we've managed to get a database of US based players.
Yeah.
Some play college level, some play high school level, some play recreationally, but love the game.
Yeah.
And then we've also managed to now find a player that plays in the German 4th division, who has Marshallese grandparents.
Okay.
And then the biggest one, I think, for us as well is to grow. We want to grow the female game. And in the Marshall Islands itself, it's difficult. We don't actually have any female players yet because I think because it's so new, but it's also like a culture aspect of maybe not playing yet. But in the US, we've got 9 US based female players of Marshallese descent.
Okay.
So what we want to do is hopefully get those guys, awareness, but that hopefully then inspires people in the Marshall Islands itself to want to play as well. So yeah, it's been fantastic. The US is the main one, but yeah, we've managed to find quite a lot of Marshallese descendants who want to play, which is fantastic.
That's interesting. So from the players that you have found so far, is it mainly just for the main men's national team and hopefully the women soon, or is it also for age groups?
Mostly for men at the moment. We've got a few younger age players. So we've had a couple of like 11, 12, 13-year-olds whose parents have contacted us to say, our son plays. Can we just put our names on a database? And that's great because obviously we want to connect with as many people as we can. But I'm potentially or likely going to Springdale actually in February. And one of the things I want to do there is connect with the big Marshallese community so that we can discover those players of any age, because long term they'll probably be a part of the success of being in the national teams. So yeah, at the moment mainly just adults.
So then for now, for the immediate future, how do you do a quality check? Like how do you make sure that the players have the ability that you believe is required to, strengthen the national team immediately?
From the players based abroad, it's a little bit difficult in that sense because financially, we don't have funding, we don't have any confederation membership, so we work solely on donations and sponsorship.
Yeah,
So it brings its own problems because for us to be able to do things like camps, training camps,
yeah,
would cost a lot of money, which we don't have.
yeah,
So what we have to do at the moment is just work on video footage of them playing from their teams, from their colleges, from their schools, whatever it may be.
yeah,
Um, the players in the Marshall Islands, they're all regularly playing, twice a week,
yeah,
especially on the male side. So it's easier to keep a track of those guys. But what we'll do, we've got a couple of options to play some games in this summer, 2024.
yeah,
Same again, it comes down to funding to be able to do it. But what we want to do is be able to combine a few of the US based players with the majority of those, the stronger players that are playing in the Marshall Islands and create that almost one squad for those fixtures. But yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there over time.
definitely in the heading in the right direction. So now
Yeah, yeah.
you've held quite a few roles. So you've worked as an under 23 manager, a first team scout, university head coach, fitness coach, female development manager, FA skills coach, and also I forgot to mention to the audience that you're also a qualified personal trainer and nutritionist. So now, how much do you think all of this is helping you in your current role of helping a nation that hopefully will turn big in football in the future? How much do you think all these experiences have helped you so far?
um, I think it helps in the sense of you can understand variations of lots of different roles, lots of different aspects, lots of different people and how to deal with them.
Yeah,
Um, but I think for me, it was good because I grew up playing the game. I grew up then coaching the game.
yeah,
I liked fitness, so I trained to be a personal trainer. I had professional football as a well in fitness as a fitness coach,
yeah,
which was fantastic. Um, but then being in that environment also then made me learn lots of more technical aspects of it to help my coaching as well.
yeah,
And then over time, it's just led into different opportunities. So the scouting came because of connections that I had that allowed me to get into different environments and learn that side of the game. So yeah, I was a first team scout opposition analyst for an English League Two club.
yeah,
I did it for as a consultant basis for a club in Sweden, and I was fortunate enough to do that. But then alongside that, they were almost like part-time roles. And then
yeah,
my full-time role was working for the FA, the English FA, as a skills coach.
yeah,
So we were predominantly working with 5 to 11-year-olds and then teaching teachers and coaches. So I was then learning the coach education aspect as well. And I liked that side of it.
yeah,
So I then started to get an idea of working with children, adults, and coaches, teachers as well. Um, so then when I started to sort of, you know, progressing through different ways, I wanted to explore the route of teaching. So I retrained, went to university again later in life, retrained as a teacher, but was still coaching on the side. And part of my role actually at the college I was working at was coaching
yeah,
as well as teaching. And it led to me having same again, different experiences with different players, different ages. And I think they form the basis of taking yeah, the main thing I just said actually around working with different people, because I would like to think I have an understanding of how to connect with different ages and different abilities, different backgrounds, because of maybe the different experiences I've had from that.
yeah. This is, I think this is you're the right person to ask because enough of Marshall Islands right now because, you have also got quite a lot of experience doing, as you mentioned, in different environments. So I'd like to believe your prowess is as a technical director. That's where your expertise is. So what is your advice to coaches on skill acquisition and player development?
Know your players, and for me, it's understanding the person first,
Yeah,
player second, or even person first, coach second.
yeah,
Because for me, if you approach the player or the coach in a wrong way, you're probably not going to see the full potential of that person. So I think it's important to understand the person first, what interests them, what motivates them, what they don't like, because if you're doing something to them as a player, if you're coaching them in a way they don't like, they're probably not going to be as receptive to listening to your information. So I think understand the person first. And for me, I'm a big believer that people have different um, learning styles. Obviously, I don't know if it is a worldwide thing, but in the UK, for example, you have a lot around VARC, so visual, auditory, reading, kinesthetic. And for me, it's important to understand that for my players and coaches I work with. So, if you're a visual learner, how can we show you? Can we demonstrate and show you everything you need to see?
Yeah.
If you're an auditory learner, do you listen? Sorry, do you learn better from hearing my voice and the instructions? If you're a kinesthetic learner and you learn by doing, you probably need to take part in those demonstrations, even if it's slowly, but taking part in it to understand it. So I think it's important to cover all those different learning methods, different learning styles in what you're doing. So for me, I would always say to your coaches, if you're doing demonstrations in sessions, talk, show, and then encourage your players to take part before you actually go and do it live, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because then everyone hopefully should be able to be a little bit more understanding of what you're wanting to do next.
So
I would say that learn the person first.
So I just wanted to shed some more light on this because I'm sure this is a situation that's faced by a lot of coaches, dealing with different players with different learning styles. So are there any examples you can give us where you've successfully managed this, maybe in a session, if you could, mention the age groups, just to give a good idea to all the audience?
Yeah. For me, actually, I think I'll go with the 23s aspect. So I went into a club called Oxford City, and I was the assistant manager for the under 23 side. First team were in the National League South at the time in England. Now they're in the National League. But the 23s, we had a strong but very young group, but considering they were playing with under 23 level. And so I went in as the assistant manager, and we really, really struggled. I think we lost 6 games out of 6.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the manager decided to leave, and I was offered the role as the manager. And what I wanted to do quite quickly was same again, learn the players, understand what their motivations were, and then how we could best suit it. So the first thing I did was maybe, I don't know, it could have gone either way. I went to change of shape, went to a 3-5-2 we were playing a 4-2-3-1. I went straight to a 3-5-2, but changed the way we had it. We had a couple of players that were contracted to the first team playing in the 23s. And one of them was playing as like the number 10 every time.
Yeah.
In pre-season, he was with the first team all pre-season playing as a number 10. And we were playing him as a number 10 in the 23s. And then we had another guy who, for some reason, just couldn't really get into the team. And I always saw like the potential in him. I thought he was really good. So what we did with the 3-5-2 was I put the guy that was playing number 10, contracted to the first team, put him as a right wing back, because I just felt that he had all the attributes from it. And when I was talking to him to understand like his motivations, his main motivation was to get into the first team on any position and stay there. But his interests were just to learn as much as he could. But he was very quick, very skillful, but he was also very clever tactically. And so I thought he could do a good job there. And then what that allowed us to do was play the guy that couldn't really get in the team, put him in his position as number 10, because same again, he had all the attributes to do really well. And then we went on about a 6 or 7 game unbeaten run, just winning games constantly. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, because we were doing well, those players ended up pushing on and we lost them. So the guy that was playing right wing back, broke into the first team and then stayed there all season. We had another 2 guys out as well, and they're now actually both playing professional football. One plays in the Irish Premier League, one plays in Cambodia. The guy that we put into number 10 that couldn't get in the team before, he's now a first team regular at Oxford City playing in the National League. So for me, it was a case of putting that into practice, understanding the players, understanding what drives them, what motivates them, what they don't like, and then almost avoiding what they don't like and really working on what they did like and what they did well. And if there were times that I think we needed to do something that they didn't like, it was a case of then explaining like really, really in depth why we're doing it.
Right.
So for example, Ewan, the guy who played at right wing back. He ended up getting a move to a professional club in the Championship in England, and for him, it was a case of I want to try it. I want to learn a new position, but like, why? What if I don't do it well? I'm going to lose all my opportunities. And it's a case of really explaining like you could do really well there because of this, this, and this. And then he started to see the okay, yeah, I could do that. So
Right.
I think for me, that really is putting into practice like the understand the person first and what motivates them, and then building it into like the collective route for the rest of the group.
That's the beauty of coaching, isn't it? There are so many different situations and there's no one size fits all. So I think wonderfully explained.
100%.
Yeah.
Ah, thank you.
And now, apologies, I'm just going to come back to Marshall Islands a little bit, but not
Yeah, no
but
worries.
indirectly. Yes. So, yeah. So now, you are in a role where basically you had mentioned that funds are not a luxury for you. You have to do everything,
Yeah.
considering every penny. So, what would your advice be to grassroots club owners who would like to, try and create a culture of football, a culture of success, but who do not have the luxury of spending? What would your advice be to them?
Um, I guess it depends on maybe the environment and the culture. For us, it was easy because it was so new. We almost had to educate everyone as to why we're doing it anyway. And this is what is going to work. This is going to work for us. I think for anyone that wants to do it based on having a small budget, I think look at your strengths. So, for example, if you only have a really small facility that to use, do you scale the game down and play small-sided games with a focus on like the technical elements? And then when you do play a larger game, build up to 11v11, all those small elements can come together.
Yes.
If you only have very limited equipment, play more games, just get the game playing and then coach within the game. But yeah, for us, we were using basketball courts because basketball is everywhere. Everyone plays basketball in Marshall Islands.
Hmm.
So you've got a lot of basketball courts. So the instant thing for us was we'll play small-sided games, we'll play futsal, and then we'll just use the same court, the same format, and the players that play basketball and have that understanding of 5v5 and the attack defense transitions,
Yeah.
that can easily be applied to futsal, and then we can coach the longer game within it. So the main advice I would be was to look at what you do have,
Yeah.
and then start to build almost a plan of working on those strengths. If you don't have a lot of equipment, play games. If you don't have a lot of space, play smaller games. If you don't have a lot of players, or maybe if you've got a squad that are inexperienced and weaker ability, maybe work on the collective strengths of like building a big team unit, a big team spirit, a big team bond, being defensively based, get the confidence if you're not conceding, and work on the quick wins and the quick results of we didn't concede, brilliant. And then next time well, this is what we now work on, and then start to layer it so that you coach the whole game over a period of time.
So that's from a technical point of view. Some great points. What about any fundraising ideas?
Oh, fundraising. So I'm quite fortunate for the Marshall Islands. We have Matt Webb, who looks after a lot of the commercial side. We have Justin, who has good connections with the press and communications. But collectively, what we've tried to do is same again, actually promote why we're doing things. So, for example, we have a GoFundMe page, and we clearly explain what the money goes to.
Yeah.
And the money goes to equipment donations. It goes to travel to get people there to help grow the game. But we are quite open and honest. And if anyone has any questions around what we're doing and why, we're really easy then able to explain it.
Yeah.
I would say as well, look for community partners. So, for example, if you've got a big company in your community, try to explain to them what their money goes to or their equipment goes to and why it's helping. You might be in a community with lots of children but nothing to do, no activities, and the big company, and you can almost explain, we're doing this to get more people active, we're doing it to help people's health, we're doing it to give a different platform to play. But I would say connect as much as you can to your community, and be as open and as honest as you can with what you're doing with their support.
Brilliant. This was brilliant. I'm sure, this is a reference point for a lot of coaches. Now, just before I let you go, last two questions, and I understand that, you have a busy day. So can you tell us
That's all right.
about your company, Coach Development UK?
Yeah. So to be honest, these are actually just very loose. And initially, I studied later in life, I was already coaching. I had family by this point, but I decided to do a master's degree mid-lockdown from COVID, which is crazy. And when I finished that master's, I realized that I actually missed talking about the football with and writing about football. So I started a blog site, which was coachdevelopment.uk, and started to interview coaches around the world around their experiences. Um, so that's something I still do, probably a little bit less than I used to do because of various other things. But yeah, I still do interviews with coaches around the world. What I used to do was put on session plan ideas onto coachdevelopment.uk, but now most of my sessions, or all of my sessions, go onto social media. So I go onto Twitter or X, TikTok, Instagram. I need to grow more. I need to be better with Instagram. I have a site. I have Coach Development UK, a page on Instagram. I just need to put more content on there. And then other things I do as well on the website on coachdevelopment.uk is I have the shop. So I have a couple of ebooks on there, and then some services that I offer. So and actually, it's great to talk to you because I'm actually just in the process of signing off a consultancy deal with an Indian club
Yeah.
to technically consult for them. So writing their game model, their curriculum plans, and different things throughout. But I've done that a couple of times I did it with a club in Canada and wrote their game model and their curriculum plan. And it was great, actually. A year to the day of writing it, they ended up winning the national championships for boys and girls at U17 level. So it
Okay.
was amazing to see.
Yeah.
It was great in that sense. But yeah, so services like creation, content creation, session ideas, and hopefully helping people from it.
And what's the best way for people to maybe follow you, contact you? What's the best way?
Yeah. So Twitter or X now, and TikTok. It is literally just at Lloyd Owers, so just my name.
Yeah.
Um, the Instagram is Coach Development UK, and if anyone's got any questions they would prefer to contact via email or something like that, the easiest one is to go through probably the Marshall Islands. So technical director misf@gmail.com.
Perfect. Brilliant. And now the one question that we ask every guest on our podcast, what are your future plans?
Oh, I want to be a technical director for a FIFA nation. If we can do that with the Marshall Islands, that would be amazing. But yeah, I want to be a technical director for a FIFA nation at some point, and I think that having the opportunity to technically direct something on the worldwide level with the opportunity to be World Cup qualifiers, Olympic qualifiers, stuff like that would be amazing.
Brilliant. So I think just for the audience, Lloyd is available to clubs who need guidance. And you did not really mention your one-on-one services, did you? Of Coach Development UK, because that's something I found online. But
Yeah. So it is more UK based just because it's easier access. But obviously, yeah, I do one-to-one sessions like coaching wise, and have a couple of coaches that do them for me as well with players. But there are things such as if there are people around the world that are interested in that process, I'm always happy to share 1v1 ideas. And one of my ebooks on there is 1v1s, and actually on social media at the moment, specifically on um, especially on X or Twitter, people that are on there. I'm just actually doing a series of 1v1 sessions actually. So there's 20 sessions over the last week or so, just purely on 1v1s. So you're more than welcome to have a look.
awesome. So thank you. Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you for accepting to do the podcast on very, very short notice. And yes, I thank you for your time and I wish you best of luck in all your endeavors.
Honestly, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.